Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's episode of the podcast, I'm joined by sophomore on the Georgia Women's Club Hockey team, Hailey Hultberg. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Hailey, and how's everything going?
It's going great. I'm super excited to be here. It's a great, nice, beautiful day in Athens. Can't complain.
Yeah, it's a little cloudy up here in the New England area, so hopefully that sun will start to come up north a little bit as the days progress. Too much rain for me.
Let's see, I'm a big snow girl, but I don't think I could do the rain.
Yeah, I actually like rain more than snow just because I feel like snow impacts travel. And if I want to go out somewhere, sometimes I can't because of the snow. So that's why I'm not the biggest snow fan.
I feel like that's very true, but then there's days when I walk to class and it's pouring rain. By the time I actually get there, I'm just drenched.
Yeah,
So
I get that. I feel like I try to prepare myself for it as best I can, though, because I do like the sound of rain, and it's obviously important because I don't want droughts happening here in the US.
that'd be the smart thing to do. There are days where I forget to check the weather and then I don't
Yeah,
have an umbrella or rain jacket, and then I just walk really quickly.
yeah, I understand that. I understand that. But I kind of want to start off this podcast by talking about the beginning of your hockey career and sort of working all the way up to where you are today. So from the research that I've done from yourself, it says that you're from Park City, Utah. So talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
So I'm originally from Park City, Utah, but prior to Park City, I grew up in Chicago and I was always surrounded by hockey in both places, but I've actually only been playing hockey since September.
Nice.
So it goes all the way back to just a few months ago. But I've grown up competitive figure skating and I would basically live at the rink. It was my second home, surrounded, like I said, by hockey. And I had a bunch of friends growing up. Like one of my best friends, Ella Pearl, she plays for Colorado on their women's club team. Every day she's like, Hailey, 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 you gotta switch, you gotta switch. Like come to this side of things. You'll have so much fun. And so one day I was like, okay, I'll try. And so she got all of the girls in our town who played hockey to come play with me, and I loved it, but I couldn't fully commit until this year.
Well, I sort of want to ask you, did you watch any hockey growing up and did you have a favorite player or was it more something you like to participate in rather than watch?
I definitely watched it a little bit growing up. I mean, figure skating was my number one at the time, so I was more in tune with that side of things. But like I said, when I was from Chicago, I was around the Blackhawks, and so I was a little bit biased. But my dad gave me a Patrick Kane jersey growing up that I used to wear all the time, so he is definitely my favorite player. But
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed not to see him go on a run with the Rangers. I
I
thought that
know
was his last chance, but we'll see if he comes back there or not.
we'll see.
Well, this sort of interesting that you didn't play hockey up until September, but like you said, you were a figure skater. And doing research on yourself, it says that you won a few gold medals in the tournaments that you've competed in growing up. So I want to ask you, what's it like being a figure skater, and how? Just talk about just growing up doing that sport.
I love being a figure skater and it did a lot of great things for me. I learned a lot. I was able to have some success. And I feel like it has had a huge effect on my hockey career, both good and bad. Obviously, it's helped with the foundation of my skating. I've had that pretty much down, but I still like figure skating and hockey are similar, but there's still some things that are still very different. Like I like to toe push a lot because I'm so used to my toe pick. So that's a habit that I've been having to break, especially when I go from stopping to starting. But it's definitely helped me a lot. And I love that I now know like two different sides of skating.
Yeah, yeah, I could not be a figure skater. I'm not really that graceful. So, but no, so was it sort of a hard adjustment for you to adjust from figure skating to hockey, or was it sort of seamless, or was it sort of like you had some bumps in the road, I guess, at the start of it?
I definitely had some bumps in the road because I was trying to like have my mindset like, okay, I play hockey now, but I still just out of habit would do the same things over and over and over and over again. It was like breaking those habits, trying to get more grounded when I skate and get like the idea out of my head, like I'm not being judged for how graceful I skate or how much extension I have when I skate. It's all about how quickly I can skate, how powerful I can be, how efficient I can be. And so that was what I needed to work on, and I'm still working on it today.
I want to ask you, how did you get into figure skating?
So in Chicago, my we lived on a cul-de-sac, and my parents bought me a pair of rollerblades, and I had to go up and down and up and down and up and down all summer long. And then in the wintertime, when it began to snow, I'd be really sad because I couldn't rollerblade anymore because there was snow. So one day, my mom signed me up for ice skating lessons, and it just kind of stuck, and I've been doing it ever since.
Who's your favorite figure skater? I only know one figure skater, and that's Gracie Gold, just because I remember
Hmm.
when the 2014 Olympics took place. I was in New York, so that's all I saw on the television was her competing for that gold medal back when those Olympics took place. That's the only one I know, so that would probably be my favorite, but who was yours?
I probably have to go with Brady Tennell because I grew up training with her, and she's just been a mentor for as long as I can remember.
What's the hockey and winter scene like in Utah? Because obviously it's a very big
Yes.
snowboard ski place, but I want to know if it's what it's like as a hockey figure skating place, because there really isn't that much hockey in Utah, but I've heard that
Mm-mm.
it is growing a little bit, especially with the potential of a new NHL team coming there
Yes.
in the near future.
I really appreciate it because although it's not huge yet and it is still growing, it's such a tight-knit community where everybody knows everybody, whether that's with figure skating, hockey, or even speed skating. And so it's great where you can travel from rink to rink and either you know that person directly or somebody else. And I was grateful to have a hockey team at my high school, and that was a big part of like my high school life was going to hockey games and just like cheering on the team and that like doing a big crowd every year and same with like other high schools. And then oh, I lost my train of thought.
It's all good.
um, and then another huge part of it is obviously it gets cold, and so all of our ponds will freeze. And so every day in the wintertime after school, there'll be somebody on the pond either doing pond hockey or figure skating. And so a lot of my hockey friends would try to get me out there, give me a stick. Most of the time it was a righty stick and I play lefty. So I'd be trying to play righty and figure skates against all my hockey friends. I made a little bit of a fool of myself, but it was so much fun.
How many rinks are in Utah?
That is a great question. At least 10.
All right. That's pretty good though, because I know in Georgia, someone was telling me there's only like five or six.
Now there's a lot of rinks. Or
Okay, that's good.
if there's not a rink, like I said, there's a pond, or in my town, they'll freeze the tennis courts in the winter and provide an opportunity to skate there.
That's good. That's good. So let's talk a little bit more about your pond hockey memories. Just like you said, you're sort of making a fool of yourself, but you said you had a lot of fun.
Yes. I mean, it was definitely a little bit more difficult trying to play with a righty stick and not really knowing a ton about hockey at the time. So I just tried to use whatever I could to get past. And I'd always pick who I thought was like the best person out there and be like, oh, I'm gonna pass them. I'm gonna get the puck past them. I'm gonna be faster than them. They're not gonna get past me. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Nice. Well, I want to sort of transition now and talk about your college club career so far. So, what made you want to go to the University of Georgia, just from a school perspective?
Mhm. So my senior year, everything was still virtual, and like the country wasn't open back up to doing in-person tours yet. And so I had to do a lot of research on what college I wanted and like what I was looking for and what had the best program. And I'm majoring in exercise and sports science. I looked up the top programs for that and then made a list. And then because all the tours were canceled, a lot of schools provided them virtually. So I watched tour after tour after tour and learned after program, and then was able to make a list from there. And ultimately, Georgia just checked all the boxes of what I was looking for. And then in February of that year, I was able to like unofficially visit, which really just meant we flew there, got a hotel, and just walked around by ourselves. And then from like the moment I got there, I could just see that I could really see myself here, which was really interesting because it was the only school on my list that there wasn't snow. So I always
Wow.
thought, oh, I'm gonna go where it snows, but guess not.
Well, talk a little bit more about your major as an exercise science major and just the classes that you've been taking so far.
I absolutely love it. I'm on the pre-physician's assistant track, hopefully doing the sports med field one day. And a lot of my classes right now, I'm still, since I'm a sophomore, I'm taking more of the like gen ed classes still. So like chemistry, physics, anatomy, which have been tough, but I enjoy learning something new. And that's something that challenges me. And in the future, I get to start getting more like exercise science specific and do like a biomechanics and exercise physiology. And I also have a minor in sports management, so I'm getting more of like that side of things. And so I'm doing like sports management, sports analysis, like legal aspects of sports, like sports in the mass media. And so I like how like both sides kind of create this like big bubble.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just the class physics was not my favorite class at all. I really hated it. That was the one I made sure like that was the only time I was ever going to take it just because it was too much math for me. But I do like
Yeah.
biology a lot. I thought that was a lot of fun and very interesting to learn about. Well,
So
obviously,
physics.
oh yeah, go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead. I wasn't saying anything interesting.
All right. Well, sort of getting back to the hockey side of things, I know that Georgia just started a club hockey team this past season. Obviously, from my research that I've done, there are sort of seven players that played hockey previously before playing the club hockey team with Georgia, and then there are seven players that have never played hockey ever before joining this team. So I sort of want to ask you, how did you hear about the club hockey team in Georgia, and what made you want to join it?
So my freshman year, when I came to campus, I was looking for things to get involved in, and there wasn't a figure skating team, but there was a men's club hockey team. And so I reached out to the coach and said, "Hey, here's my background. I'd love to help with whatever I can. I'd be more than happy to assist like in on ice with like doing some power skating or whatever was needed." And he loved the idea, and I was hired as a power skating intern and worked all through my freshman year with the team. And I'd be out there teaching 40 guys power skating like twice a week, every week. And I just fell in love with that. But I knew in order to be a better power skating coach, since I didn't quite have the hockey background, like I understood a lot of it just through figure skating, but there's still parts that I was missing. I wanted to physically play myself so I can connect all the dots and be a better coach. And then this opportunity fell into my lap, and I heard about this girl Hannah Knight creating this hockey club for like women to try, and you didn't need experience. And so I got in contact with her. I was like, hey, like I would love to play, love to help, whatever, what can I do? And then it just blew up from there. And then we recruited a bunch of other girls, and it's been great so far.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about being a power skating coach for the men's club hockey team and what you've learned from doing that so far.
I've learned a lot. There was days where I loved it and it was so much fun, and there was days where it was just a big challenge. Because I think my biggest issue is, yes, our blades are different and we do have different backgrounds, but I would try to teach the guys an exercise that I think they would be able to do pretty easily or make sense or could somehow contribute to their overall like skating. And I'd go to teach it and something wouldn't click. And so like each like guy after guy after guy would struggle to like do this exercise that I thought they'd be able to succeed at. So I'd have to like break it down, and that really like got the wheels turning on like how like why isn't it working? Is it is it my coaching that's not working? Is it because like the blades are different? Is it because they have a different background than me? And so like each week I would like try to keep asking those my questions and like dive deeper and deeper to see like how can I fix this? And eventually I was able to get there. But
It,
and it was awesome seeing the improvement from the first day to the last day at the end of the season. Because from the first day I would give them an exercise and they were a little hesitant at first, but they would do it. And then they definitely struggled. By the end of the season, they could just, because we do the same like few exercises to warm up with, they could just go right into it, no problem. Each week I build upon them and they get harder and harder. And by the end, they're doing really difficult exercises.
what were some of the improvements you saw in the guys from your teaching when you were watching them play club hockey this past season or your freshman year?
Just a lot of balance and edge control, as well as being more efficient on the ice. Because that was something that I really wanted to work on, is that they are all very talented players and they each have their unique style. but I wanted to see if there's anything that I could do to try to make them more efficient and more explosive when they play. And I definitely started to see that in their games. And they had a lot of success last year, which was awesome.
And do you think being a teacher has made you a better skater because you've had to sort of think about skating differently?
Oh, absolutely. I think it has contributed to my overall success by a lot because I've always been like coached in figure skating or told what to do. And yes, I would practice by myself, but this was like the first time that I've had to teach somebody like it's the first time that I taught my peers and like a large quantity of them and a new sport with like hockey. And so it was a great learning.
Now, getting back to the club hockey side of things, once you
Hmm.
joined the team, what was sort of like the biggest adjustment that you had to make playing club hockey outside of the skating aspect? Was it hard learning how to shoot? Was it sort of hard learning how to be a defender? Just talk a little bit more about that.
I'd say both were definitely hard learning how to shoot, learning how to be a defender. Because like I said, I grew up skating, so I was able to stand my own when it came to skating, and I could pick that up fairly quickly, figure out what worked, what didn't work, what adjustments I needed to do with that. But then adding a stick in my hand, that was a whole new ballgame. I was trying to figure out like, okay, like where do I put it so it's not in the way, or how can I still turn effectively with it in my hands? And then stick handling with a puck was something that I hadn't really done before, and tried to work on that a lot. And then like one of the biggest issues that I found myself having was that I wasn't I was a brand new player, but I had some experience because I could skate. But I was kind of in the middle of two sides. So you had the girls I'd been playing and the girls that had never played and never skated before, and then there's me. So I often had like almost like an identity crisis because I would try to keep up with the girls that had been playing because I was seen as having experience, but I because I could skate, but I still lacked a lot of the foundational skills because I'd never played before. And so I'd constantly like start to beat myself up about it and be like, oh, like I let a girl get past me playing defense, or like, oh, why can't I shoot as good as them? And I feel like I had this pressure that I put on myself to try to be as good as them. And then finally I was able to take a step back and say, like, yes, I might be able to keep up with them skating wise, but I am still learning. And it's okay to make mistakes. And that it's okay to keep practicing and getting better. And hopefully one day I will be able to just be seen as that. But there's still a lot of work that needs to go into that.
We're talking a little bit more about what it's like playing in club hockey and just the competition that you play this past season. I know you played Auburn for a few
Hmm.
games, and then you also played the Atlanta Junior Thrashers. So
Hmm.
just talk a little about the games that you played and just the competition that you faced this past year.
So this year was a little bit unique because we weren't in a league yet. So it was very like we can only play specific teams, and there isn't a whole lot of options in our surrounding area without having to travel far distances. So that kind of led to UGA and Auburn playing, and we were basically the only team that each other played. And it would kind of be back and forth. Sometimes they would have a really great game, sometimes we'd have a really great game. Ultimately, it was so much fun because both teams had just started. And so we were both in the same place. And each time we played each other, you got to see the improvements that both teams were making on and off the ice, whether it came to like on a skilled and seeing, as with like the girls that hadn't played before, you could clearly see all of their improvement because they went like our first game, we had girls that could barely skate, barely stand. Everybody was falling left and right. We were working on positioning still and learning the rules. So it was a little bit of what you could describe as a hot mess. And then by the last game, you had girls who had never played before prior to this scoring goals and being in the right position. And we were playing as a team. So that was so awesome to see. And then it was also a unique experience to play against the junior Thrashers because they're the future of hockey. They could potentially be on our team in the next couple of years or grow and go somewhere else. It was a great challenge to see like what the youth is doing and how we compare to that.
Yeah, and talk about how you sort of handled those challenges at the beginning because it wasn't just that you had half the team that didn't know how to play hockey, but it was also hard to find practice time as well since there
Hmm.
wasn't a lot of rinks in your area. So what I was told though is you guys had to do a lot of practices like just on the ground and parking lots around the area. So talk a little bit more about I guess the challenges that your team faced and sort of how you navigated those and how you use those challenges to become better players.
Now we faced many challenges, and a big one was how do we keep girls interested without having ice? Or how do we keep them learning without having ice? So we adapted and did everything we could. Like you said, we would go to a parking lot and do stick handling for an hour and just keep working off the ice and improving all of our skills there. Or we do team workouts and trying to build our strength and endurance and our balance so that we could translate that onto the ice. And then when we did have ice, we'd make the most out of it. Everybody was giving like 110% effort because having ice was a rare occurrence for us. Like there'd be times where we wouldn't have ice for a month. Or if we would have ice, we would potentially have it um, at like 11 o'clock at night. And as a college student, that's really hard having practice until like midnight, 1 a.m., and then having to wake up the next morning for an early class or early exam. But I feel like we did a great job with everything that was thrown our way. And I am very thankful for my team and how adaptive they are and how everybody just like went with the flow. And whether we were on ice or off the ice, everybody just tried their hardest and did whatever they could to improve.
Now, I recently saw an announcement that Georgia will be joining a division with U Tampa, Miami, South Carolina, USF, and Auburn for next season. Just want to ask you how excited are you to see that division get made for next year, and just how excited you are to see the growth of women's hockey in the South.
Oh, I'm beyond excited. It's been awesome to see all of our hard work this year finally pay off and to show that like there is girls hockey in the South and that there's so much room for it to grow. And like I know with my team at the end of the day, we love what we're doing, but like it's not about us. It's about the future impact that we have and we're providing hockey opportunities for girls in the future. Like girls 10 years from now, girls 5 years from now, girls even a year from now. Like without what we're doing now, they wouldn't even have the opportunity. And I'm also really excited to play other teams other than Auburn. As much as I love playing them, I'm excited to see how like other programs are doing, what is working for them, and just have a different like talent levels and different teams and figure out how they play. So it's gonna be
Yeah,
so fun.
and to take some nice trips because Miami and Tampa are really nice cities as well.
Yes. I don't know how much exploring we'll do. It'll probably be a bunch of us piled into a car, driving, playing our games, then driving right back.
But we should get to see some of the stuff, I guess. Even though you won't
Yeah.
be exploring like how you would think you would, you at least get to like sort of see it from a small distance in a car.
No, that will be fun. I'll have a lot of road trip music, a lot of talking, probably a lot of sleeping.
How do you figure out the driving schedule?
We aren't there yet. And we'll just that we'll figure out when it comes. As we have a potential schedule. And so we kind of know when like we'll be traveling and I think we're gonna go to Florida sometime in the fall, but we're still figuring out like logistics of it, like where we're gonna stay, how we're gonna get there. Because hockey is expensive, and so we're trying to figure out the best way to budget and still like have everybody be safe.
Yeah, I also heard that some people have helped you out too with the jerseys. Like you guys, someone donated like all the jerseys and practice jerseys that you guys wear, which I thought was pretty cool to read about.
Hmm. No, we're very grateful for that. And like my jacket that I'm wearing was donated to us, and our
Nice.
jerseys. And the community has been so great in trying to support us however they can.
Well, talk about your improvement that you made to your game. What do you think was the biggest improvement that you made from the beginning of the year to the end of the season?
Probably just like my overall confidence on the ice, because I feel like I was so, like I said earlier, I was so stressed about trying to keep up with the girls that had been playing before that I put so much pressure on myself that I would critique every move I'd make. I'd be like, oh, like that wasn't good enough, or how did I let that happen? And I would often make the same mistake after mistake after mistake, like over and over and over again. And eventually, as I learned more, as I practiced more, as I became more comfortable, stop toe pushing as much. I was really able to see myself make those improvements. In our last game, I ended up having my first ever goal and it was unassisted. So that was really cool.
Congratulations. So you get to keep the
Thank
puck?
you. Oh, I do.
Nice. Where is it now?
It's in my room. I live in a sorority house, so I put it there and I walked back with it and showed my roommates, and they kind of looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, no, my puck with tape around it is really cool.
Yeah. Are you gonna keep that in your room back home? Just so it's something that I guess remind you of Georgia when you're there.
I think I'm gonna leave it here, but
Oh wow. Okay. Hopefully it
I
doesn't get
know,
lost.
I know. Fingers crossed. I
Well,
mean, I don't think anybody will want to take a puck with tape on it, but you never know.
you never know. Yeah, that's the thing. So that's what maybe just me. I'm very overprotective of certain things because I just don't want some to get lost because I'm very organized and OCD like that.
hmm But I don't know. I feel like I'm the same way, but I also feel like because I'm going back home for the summer, but I'm putting a lot of my stuff in storage, and I feel like just bringing something like a puck back and forth is a little bit unnecessary, especially when I love to like have it in my room next year to remind me of like where it started and how it's growing. But,
Well, what are your team's goals and expectations for next season? Obviously, this season was sort of just establishing yourself,
mhm.
teaching some of your players what it's like playing hockey. And I feel like you guys definitely did that by the improvements that you made from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. But now, since you guys are going to be in division next year, what are some of your goals and expectations for that season?
We haven't fully talked about them as a team, but I feel like, in my opinion, there's two main goals. There's the hockey side of things, or just to be the best we can be, hopefully be competitive with all these teams. I'd love another win against Auburn, and ultimately, like, play as a team, keep having each player make individual progress, just getting better, learning more about the sport. And then there's the other side of things where we'd love to just grow the game, grow awareness, try to be a more established program, help out in the community whenever we can. We're currently working on a mentorship program with the Lady Thrashers, and I'm excited to see how that grows. But just ultimately, like growing sport, growing the game.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions just to get to know you a little bit more off the ice. So doing research on yourself, one fun fact about you is that you have done a TED Talk when you were younger. So I just want to ask, how did that come about, and what was your TED Talk about?
So at my high school, there was an opportunity to give a TEDx Youth Talk. So it's just an event independently run from TED, and my committee runs it almost every year. And I thought that was really interesting, but I was a little bit concerned because I wasn't sure if I had anything worth sharing. This TED's all about like an idea worth sharing, but then I thought about it and I wanted to share my experience with going through a really negative state of mind. Because with figure skating, I had a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of figure skating is very mental. And I had a few unfortunate experiences where I started to begin develop this voice in my head that would always be negative and say, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, like we're scared at the rink. But then with some coaching and some help from sports psychologists and medical professionals, and just practicing on my own, I was able to turn that into positive thinking and apply it to my everyday. So in my TED Talk, I told that story and also encouraged other like athletes, like the youth, parents, anybody, just to like keep positive, have solid positive health, so that to keep positive, have positive self-talk, and to just, spread kindness.
That's awesome. Do you ever watch it back again, or is it one of those things that I don't like hearing the sound of my voice, so that's
Yeah.
why after I edit these podcasts, I never listen to them again. So I'm assuming it might be the same way for you.
So I was gonna say, how do you do podcasts and edit them without listening to your voice? No, mine is the exact same way. And I don't like go around advertising that I have a TED Talk. And then one time, like somebody will find out about it, and then all of my friends will know, and then they'll ask to see it. Or in my sorority house, they put it on a big screen for a lot of the girls in the house to see. And it's always so interesting. But at this point, I still remember it word for word. So I'll like recite it with it and just kind of like laugh at it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I could ever do a TED Talk. It just like the way it's set up where it's like all on you, like there's no other background and stuff, like
Yeah.
that's a little nerve-wracking for me.
Oh, I loved it. It was such an amazing experience. I learned so much from it. It was great being able to share my story and like challenge myself to figure out like my thoughts and put them into words and hopefully like share them and have somebody be impacted or benefit from what I was talking about and taught me like how to talk in front of a crowd and just many life skills. And like to this day, I still wish that I had another chance to like go on and elaborate and like share what else I've learned from it.
especially with the hockey side of things now with this
Yes,
season.
yes. No, that it's definitely something like I still struggle with from day to day. Like I'll have some negative thoughts here and there, but ultimately I'm so much better now. I just like thinking positively, like going with the punches that are thrown at me and just like adjusting and adapting and like keeping a positive mindset.
Now, what music do you like to listen to?
Ooh, I'm a big rock and roll girl. So that's what my parents grew up listening to. And so then they played it for all my brother and I, and then it just kind of stuck with me ever since.
What's like your favorite band? Like, or at least just a few favorite bands that you listen to?
Ooh, I listen to like all the classics, but I mean this answer is a little bit like cheesy, but I love Queen so
Hmm.
much. Like I know so many Queen songs and like the Beatles, Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Police, Pink Floyd, like all of that.
Yeah, I like you too. That's probably my favorite
Yeah,
rock band.
no, they're also good too.
Now, what would the perfect day look like for you?
Ooh, probably just skiing in the Alps of France. I had the opportunity to go there a couple of years ago, and it was just so much fun. Just snow for days, being in France, great food, great company.
If you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Anyone in the world, probably Wayne Gretzky, because it'd just be really cool to sit down, talk with him, learn about his experience, just pick his brain.
Well, I saw that Anson Carter, who works on TNT, wore the Georgia jersey, and obviously Wayne Gretzky works for TNT, so maybe you could figure out a way to make that actually happen.
I know. So I did the same thing with Anson that I was so grateful for him because he stayed and came to one of our games and stayed afterward. And I had the opportunity to talk to him, and it was so encouraging just to hear from him and like see what he had to share with us, especially like a new player. And it was so awesome. And then he invited us to go watch the Atlanta Gladiators with him.
That was
And it
cool.
was,
Did you get to do that?
mhm. I did. There was Star Wars night, and so there was a bunch of Star Wars characters everywhere. And then we got to go up to his box and watch it with his family up there, and that was really cool.
That's awesome. Well, I think he's a great analyst. Obviously, he did play college hockey, so we should try to get him on
Yes,
the podcast at some point.
you should.
Um, no, he's good to hear that he's also a good person off the ice too.
So very much so.
Now, one thing I want to ask you is, so being from up north, obviously we don't know too much about what it's like playing in the SEC, going to an SEC school. So just talk about the SEC culture and what it's like at Georgia, because obviously the football team's really cool. I love the bulldog that you guys actually have at the games. Uga, I think he's the best. And
It's
then
no longer
obviously,
Uga, it's Boom now.
oh, really? All right,
They just switched a few weeks ago.
I did not know that. So, and then I think Stetson Bennett seems like a cool guy just because he's went through a lot of
Yeah.
adversity just to be his quarterback at Georgia and win like two national championships. I just want to sort of ask you what that's all like.
Oh, it's awesome. It's very different from where I grew up and what I've known, but it's been so fun to be in a different environment. And like the cool thing about Georgia is there's so much Bulldog pride. Like anywhere you go, some if you're wearing like a Georgia merch, like somebody will say Gold Dogs or just there's so many alumni that are like, how can I help? How can I get involved? How can I support your career? And so I love it.
Now I gotta restart this meeting because it's going to expire in 2 minutes, and I don't want it
Okay.
to end in abruptly in one of your answers. So